Welcome back, my friends. Day 25, I believe, of 100. So we're about a quarter through this process. Hopefully at this point you've picked up the themes, what we're working on, how to progress, how to continually release your neck and shoulders. And now we simply apply what we've been learning, continuing to deepen the practice a little bit at a time, and a little bit at a time, improve. As usual, beginning in a comfortable standing posture, although I'd like to, of course, recommend a bit of preparation. For today, if you have the opportunity, grab a ball, maybe a tennis ball. This is a hard bocce ball. I use it for other practices. But for my feet, because my feet are pretty soft, I can roll back and forth with quite a lot of pressure on it, and there's no discomfort. But remember that there are other methods as well. This, for instance, is a soft version filled with air and little pokey nubbles all around it to massage your feet. Ooh, this actually feels especially good today. And so I highly recommend using both. Maybe start with the soft one, soften up your feet, maybe a small tennis ball, and then move to a lacrosse ball. But whatever it is that you have access to, spend a little time softening the bottom of your feet today. We'll find it especially useful for what we're working on. So, a few minutes of standing, getting nice and comfortable, your whole body soft and open. Once again, for the sake of what we're working on today, perhaps slightly widen your stance, very slightly more than usual, similar to what we worked on in the last class, as well as soften your lower back all the way through down to your feet, and make a special attempt, again, to soften your feet today, the bottom of your feet. And we'll take a few extra minutes to stand today. Softening your neck, back of your neck, the sides of your neck, your throat. Relaxing your jaw, any tension in your face or around your eyes. Allow the weight of your head to be released as though upward, toward the sky, taking the weight out of your spine, or at least that's how it might feel to you. Softening the tops of your shoulders, letting go of the front of your shoulder, the back of your shoulder, allowing the shoulder blades to soften down your back. Letting your elbows hang as though growing heavy, your wrists sinking down, your fingertips, your hands softening continually as we practice. letting go of any tension in your abdomen, and as much as you're able to, releasing your lower back. As your lower back opens, this will make it easier for your shoulders to sink down, the shoulder blades to release, which of course makes it easier for your arms to sink, for your head to feel light. Continually, especially today, feeling the length of your spine, the opening of your back from the base of your skull down to your tailbone. As your tailbone sinks, your hips release, your glutes soften. Also releasing the front and the inside of the hips. And like we talked about last time, this sense of rounding the crotch, making space in this area of the body rather than closing it and compressing your lower back. You release your lower back, let this space open. A bit hard to describe, but you can find it in your body. As your hips release, your knees soften. Remember that you do not want to try bending your knees by themselves. That just puts your hips and lower back into a position they can't quite get out of. Instead, your legs are straight, your hips are straight, and as you soften your lower back and your hips, your knees bend on their own. That's a proper kind of flexing of the legs. Your ankles release, your feet are soft, your toes hang. Again, emphasizing this opening along the inside of the legs and especially the bottoms of the feet. And then when you feel ready, closing. Hands resting on top of the navel. Awareness resting deep inside. Gentle circles spiraling outward from your navel. Softening all the way through your abdomen to your lower back, especially releasing your lower back today. And by the way, if you are new here, are not quite sure what we're doing, please do check down below for some links that will lead you to an introduction for this particular practice, as well as a whole series of classes that will teach you this form of Qigong. And in the very list, you can find your way back to the first of this series of 100, so you can follow us in order, and you'll know what in the heck we're talking about. And that way I don't have to try to re-explain everything every class. Softening down. Let's do a little bit of left and right, yin and yang. Remember to emphasize softening all the way through. Of course, the main component here is releasing our neck and shoulders throughout this whole practice. That's the main focus. And then on the side of that is exploring various aspects of our body that are part of this Qigong routine. Because our whole body, mind, every aspect of us is involved in this practice. And we want to uncover the places that are frozen or overused, and to help them heal and blend and become part of the whole again. The weight pours through one foot, the other foot releases. If you are wearing shoes, please do make sure that your shoes are allowing your feet to spread, your toes to spread. Don't wear shoes that have pointy-toed spaces in front. It will actually interfere with your exploration of the sinew channel for today. Releasing the insides of the legs, softening your back. And then softening the sides of the neck. Perhaps a slightly wider stance again, just to explore this shape like we did in the last class. Now warming up the back a bit. Spending a bit of extra time here today. Keeping your lower back warm. Make sure your feet are warm, of course. And now, snake, swaying side to side like a wave. Softening up the full length of the back. Feel a release alongside the spine, through the spine. You might even be able to feel on top of the spine, just beneath the skin. Smaller and smaller. Closing when you're finished. So the sinew channel that we are working on today is the kidney sinew channel. That's why I decided to wear blue. I thought it might be fun. The color spectrum that often represents the kidneys, this water phase of the body, is somewhere between blue and black, like a deep, rich, dark blue. And so, meh. That's fun to dress up. And the channel itself begins on the bottom of the foot. And it extends across the foot toward the little toe, from the center of the foot to the little toe, and then runs up the inside of the leg. So it almost moves in a diagonal across. But the source of it, of course, is the center of the bottom of the foot. There is a relationship often considered in the little toe. And it runs up the inside of the leg, from the ankle up to the inside of the knee here, up toward the groin, connecting again to this space just in front of the body, just above the pubic bone, and then includes, of course, the genitalia. And so oftentimes, if people are having cramping or spasms or extremely stiff spaces in the bottom of their feet, which I know is a particular issue for many people, and often that stiffness can be related to this space behind the knee, problems of the genitalia, then this is often related to this kidney sinew channel, and we want to find ways to soften it open. Standing is a great practice for that in general. And there's another aspect of this channel which actually extends through the body to the back to wrap the spine. And it ascends the spine and the sides of the spine until it runs up and meets here at the back of the neck, base of the skull. And so these areas are spaces that we'll talk about a lot, of course, as we practice, because of this relationship to the neck and shoulders, of course. And the snake and turtle Qigong set is particularly perfect for helping to release the spine. And so we want to be aware of this relationship of the kidney sinew channel throughout the practice. Oftentimes it's fun for me just to talk about the bottom of the feet, softening the bottom of the feet, and again this arch, which is very similar and often relating to the liver sinew channel. So I won't go into quite as much discussion about this arch the way I did in the last class, because we covered that enough. But we will want to have a slightly wider stance to emphasize that quality. You can also emphasize it paradoxically by having a very narrow stance and noticing how that arch becomes more difficult to find. You can find it here by positioning your body appropriately, but I think in the beginning it can be more difficult, and so I widen it a little bit. But feel free to adjust. As long as you are exploring that relationship, then it's fine. But I'll probably emphasize the relationship at the bottom of the feet more appropriately, and movement through the spine up to the base of the skull here, because those are parts that we haven't covered quite in earnest. Wonderful. So let's begin softening the pelvis. Again, being attentive to the relationship, the kind of contact your feet are making with the ground. Softening and spreading, opening your toes, not forcefully, but giving them room to spread. Both directions. Feeling this space along the inside of the legs, softening and opening, making room here in the crotch. This is a particularly useful movement for helping with that, as well as the movement that expands and extends up the spine to the base of the skull. The kidney sinew channel also relates a little bit across the glutes here, the buttocks. As it makes its way to the spine, it extends back through here. So as you circle here, do also notice a release of the hip, a softening of your glutes. both directions. And then softening the neck and the upper spine. Emphasizing, of course, that relationship just at the base of the skull, the back of the neck, through here. Softening all the way through. As you lengthen the back of the neck, avoid closing the throat or tightening the jaw. Both directions. Feeling the lengthening all the way down the spine. And then when you're ready, gazing down, lengthening from the base of the neck to the relationship at the skull. And then looking up and down. As you look down, feeling that relationship from the base of the skull all the way down to the lower back and the tailbone. Feel the lengthening of the sinew channel. Closing when you're ready. With each practice session, allow your mind to become a little bit more stable, more able to sink inside, more able to become quiet, nourishing your center. Think about it, that if every one of these classes that we do, you improve that ability 1%, what happens after a 100-day practice? You can do this. So let's soften our shoulders a little bit in preparation for softening the front and the back. Again, one foot in front. Noticing the contact of your feet on the ground as you pour the weight through one leg, pouring it through the other. How does the full leg feel as it releases the weight into the ground? How does the empty leg feel as it is free? How does the foot respond? Both directions. both sides. Also taking note that because we are opening away from and closing toward a stable side during these practices, this helps to spread the body out away from the spine slightly as you fold inward, making space around the spine, stretching open that sinew channel, the kidney sinew channel, both directions. Crown of the head floating up, tailbone sinking down. That also helps to lengthen and open that sinew channel. And both sides at once. Again, especially spreading out along the spine. How does the sinew channel respond to being spread out, stretched open like that? Can you feel its response? That opening and closing along these particular channels becomes a big part of our practice later. Both directions. Softening along the insides of the legs to the feet. I'll just keep reminding you. Feel free to do these as many times as you like, especially if it's feeling especially good or especially bad today. Sometimes you just know when this is the practice your body needs, or any other practice. And then you simply pause the lesson and spend extra time giving your system what it's asking for. And then when you feel ready, lengthening along the kidney sinew channel that runs along the spine, and a wave traveling all the way up from the bottom of the feet. Smaller and smaller. Again, closing. Take the time to deeply settle. Don't skip past this practice. There's a reason why it's a huge percentage of every Qigong method that we work with. Let's soften our neck a little bit in preparation for the black snake movement. As you look back and down, how does this relate to the spaces in the back of your neck, base of your skull? Making certain that as you soften one hip, there's a release across the buttocks. That softening through the arch, through the crotch. And of course, a release at the bottom of your feet. Maintaining openness and fullness throughout the spine. Don't collapse anywhere in your back. Now looking down and up. Nourishing your dantian. Warming all the way to the lower back and the mingmen, through which this sinew channel passes. Allowing your arms to lengthen. Softening away from the neck, crown of the head floating up. Deeply releasing your shoulders. Melanie loves this one in particular. Remember that if you feel like you found a favorite practice, spend extra time with it. There's probably a reason why it feels so good. Gently strengthening your postural muscles. Do not use excessive force, please. Feeling the lengthening of the kidney sinew channel as you do this. I keep reminding myself to take a wider stance to accentuate this arch. We want these very tiny muscles and structures to become stronger, more able. So don't overstretch them. Don't overstress them. Don't tire them out. Slowly nourish them. That's how we do everything. Make sure that your head is facing one direction, not traveling forward or back. And then down your body, starting at the top. Make sure that you're giving the bottom of your feet a good shake as well. Always closing. If you're noticing that your awareness, your mind today is especially scattered, then spend extra time nourishing this practice, settling. Similarly, if your neck is getting especially stiff from these practices, then maybe do that shaking a few different times. Just releasing any tension. If your feet are sore, you can do that practice. Release extra stored tension. There's no need for you to try to grit your teeth and to tighten your jaw and bear the pain. That's not part of the practice. We are gently opening, nourishing, loving your body-mind into a healed space. Soften your shoulder blade down your back. Keep the back of your neck soft and open. Your lower back released. That whole kidney sinew line. Don't twist your hips and close this arch. Maintain this fullness all the way through to the bottom of your feet. Softening all the way, again, to the bottom of your feet and beyond. Each time releasing all the way through, out of your body into the ground. Don't start the next movement until you've finished the last. Down and down and down. Let it release all the way, melt. And then there's a natural movement to the next. Let's do a little bit of black snake. Again, remember, this is especially useful as we twist to help you find this open, arched length down through to the feet. The knees stay facing over the toes. Don't twist and collapse this. Maintain this fullness as you turn your waist, lengthening along your spine. Particularly great for this kidney sinew length if you keep it open. And I know that you'll keep it open. I believe in you. Down and down, waiting for it to melt into the earth. Then we start the next one. I'm grabbing my ear here, but you don't have to do that. It is perfectly okay to use your palm on the back of your head to help the turn. Whichever one feels like it helps open your back more without compressing your neck or twisting it at a weird angle or causing you to tighten your shoulders. Please be gentle. Let's do it one more time on either side. Keeping your shoulders soft. Let's do a little bit of release for the white snake movement. White snake sticking out its tongue. Opening along the length of your spine. Make sure that the crown of your head floats up so that even the base of your skull is part of that opening. Tailbone sinks. Letting your hands cross in front. Your forearms sink. Your hands just sink a little bit more quickly. If it's just your hands that sink, then it's kind of like it doesn't ask your shoulders to soften. So if you think of your whole forearm releasing, it helps to soften your shoulder blades down. Awareness of that arch, relationship, softening the lower abdomen, softening your feet. Such a nice practice. I hope that you are enjoying these practices, not treating them like torturous exercise sessions. Take your time to release, to relax. You deserve the chance to feel comfortable in your body. Remember that part of maintaining that arch when one foot is in front is this releasing of the back leg or releasing of the front leg as you pour your weight through. Don't lean back, don't close the sinew channel along the spine. Keep your feet soft. Feeling that arch lengthen, open to the feet. As you soften your shoulders. As your shoulder blades sink down, make sure your lower back stays open. Don't arch your back. By open, I mean opening this way. This is closed. This is open. If your back closes, your shoulder blades will be obstructed because everything is pushing up. Your shoulder blades won't be able to release all the way down your back to your tailbone. So as you open, make sure that your hips stay beneath your shoulders, and your lower back opens, softens, your shoulder blades have a space to move down through. This movement that travels up through and over starts at the feet. Feel the bottom of your feet spread open and soften. The knees stay soft, the hips stay released, allowing that arch to be alive. Allowing this movement to travel through your spine. Let everything get easier and easier as we go. Turn your waist, soften around. Turn your waist. Notice I'm not closing my back, and then just letting go around. Turn the waist, letting go. If you pull your shoulder back, that won't help. But if you turn your waist without twisting your hips, there's room for this to move, and then it softens through. Hip stays open. Feet stay connected to the ground. If you collapse your knee in, you'll notice your foot no longer connecting to the earth. The acupoints on the bottom of the feet, by the way, often translating as bubbling spring, Yongquan. It's a very useful term to remember. Keep the crown of the head floating upward. It's easy to let the chin slip, and that actually closes that sinew channel in the back of the neck. We want this effortlessly softened, long posture. We're not stretching these channels out by pulling and pushing on them, but by making space, by letting go, creating a body that the more we let go, the softer, fuller, stronger, more stable it becomes. Releasing each hip. I pour the weight to my left leg. That means my left knee softens away. Pour the weight into my right leg. That means my left hip and knee open. Not because I push them out, but because I let them fall open. If I tried to do it on purpose, then all I'm doing is adding tension. We don't want to add, we want to take away. Softening your shoulders, your chest. Keeping the back of your neck open. Tailbone sinking. Feet relaxed. Time to enjoy the ever popular golden snake. Lengthening out. See my shoulders lengthen away. Make sure that your hands don't go behind your body. Elbows a little in front of the shoulder. Wrist a little bit in front of the elbow. So there's this gentle curve, releasing everything forward. And then along that curve, lengthen outward. Release that way. And then do something similar with your legs. Softening all the way to your feet. Eventually we'll do a 100-day series on the hips and legs where we'll talk about that. But for now, at least soften your hips, releasing that arch. Maintain the arch as you twist. Don't twist your knees. the weight pours from one leg to the other, so one leg becomes empty, but the foot still remains settled comfortably onto the ground. Lengthening through your spine, all the way out to your fingertips, turning your waist. Freeing your hips. Remember, especially those spaces on the outside of the hips, around the glutes that are part of this kidney sinew channel, a little minor channel. Opening, soft. Deep levels of release. Each time, returning and nourishing this space inside. For those of you who have been able to sink your awareness inside, perhaps even to begin to warm your dantian, you would stand here until there's a deep sense of settling and gathering, and then a bit of extra warming of that middle dantian space. In each class, I give more information about this stuff than I probably received in the first 20 years of my training before finding Master Zhicheng. And so I'm hoping that people take this information, share it with others, spread it around, use it to heal yourself first, and then help somebody else. Take this information and grow your practice. I'm very grateful for you spending your time with me. I know how rare and beautiful it is to have a bunch of people together, even just online, virtually, who are willing to share the same virtual space and time, taking the time to learn to be peaceful and to spread that peace around the world. This is a rare and beautiful thing, and I will always appreciate it. If you are grateful for all of these practices that have been handed down for millennia, write it down in the comment section. Say something about how and why you're grateful. These masters throughout ages have been slowly cultivating these methods for us, passing them on one student at a time, for them to be able to reach us here where we can reach through time and share to multitudes. I hope that they bring a measure of peace to the world, or in the very least, to your own life. closing. As you release downward, soften starting at the base of the neck here, the end of that kidney sinew channel point, and then soften all the way to the base of the neck. From the base of the neck, soften down the spine to the lower back, down to the feet, and softening along the front of the body. For our purposes, emphasizing this lengthening, softening open of the spine. Wait until you feel the wave sink down through the legs until it presses through the feet into the ground. Remember to maintain this slightly wider stance. Keep reminding myself. Opening the front of the body without closing the back. And then hips travel back, lengthening to the spine, to the crown of the head, so that whole sinew channel along the back stays lengthened. Only as far down as feels comfortable. Then the hips travel forward. If you feel strain in your lower back, make the movement smaller until you can find your way through without engaging your lower back. Now we're about 25 days into the series, and so our system should be a little bit more comfortable with doing more of these movements, but I will still limit the number that I do. So please don't overdo them as you practice on your own. Especially if you start to feel faint, dizzy, or uncomfortable in any way in your center. You might be adding too much pressure or just trying too hard. And so find a way to make this comfortable and easy. Comfortable, easy. Don't push yourself. Again, especially if you tend toward high blood pressure or abdominal discomfort. If this makes anything worse, make the movement half as deep. Remember that you can also do it seated in a chair. Remember, the softer the better. The easier the better. We don't need to challenge ourselves with this process. Unless you're always in a state of great tension and pain, and doing anything requires overcoming that for you, and you know who you are if that's the case. For those people, of course, they have to do enough to get benefit. But please do it with the support of a doctor or an expert to make sure you're not overdoing something that's important to you, since I can't be there to help. But for the rest of us who are in the space of healing, maybe something can become uncomfortable if we push too hard, or one day we go a little too far, too long. Start to learn your limits. Start to learn when enough is enough, and stop. That is a really important aspect of wisdom, to know sufficiency. Throughout the Tao Te Ching, they're constantly talking about learning when to stop, because you go past that point and you start to lose what you gained. So you have to listen, but I can't be there to tell you what that looks like for you. So please do listen to yourself. That's part of our practice. This movement makes strong use of the kidney sinew channel. First, lengthening the whole spine, softening your hips, your legs, all the way down to your feet. Softening long. And then, as though you're gathering the clear sky and it flows down into your body, softening, opening all the way down. Into the ground. And then as you gather up the earth, the warmth and vitality flows up through the legs, in part along those kidney sinew lines, all the way up through the perineum, up the tailbone, the lower back, to the Mingmen, and then forward. As your awareness moves around your body, you want in the very least to have some awareness of the bottom of your feet, the perineum, and then the Mingmen opposite your navel on your lower back, which happens to be on this kidney sinew channel. Let's do it one more time. Begin waiting for things to settle, whatever that is like for you in this moment. Learning to listen to your own body, especially after this much practice. You want to have developed this sense of what's going on inside, at least to a small degree. Later it becomes clearer and more obvious, but a bit at a time, we learn to listen to ourselves. Softening that opposite hip, maintaining that arch. As you pivot through the waist and your hips stay behind, a clean, comfortable twisting through the spine, softening especially your lower back, letting go of your belly, releasing your neck, your shoulders down to your hands. Gently returning, slowly releasing the movement, but staying as open as you can. Returning to basic standing posture. Your whole body opening. Your neck and shoulders, of course. But also noticing that kidney sinew line from the base of the skull down your back. Feel the sinking all the way down to the hips, through the tailbone. Lengthening and opening. Feel the softening across the hips, through the groin, down the inside of the legs, inside of the knees, all the way down to the inner ankle, through the bottom of the foot, and then, of course, stretching out slightly across toward the little toe. But especially the bottom of the foot, center of the foot, that bubbling spring point, Yongquan. Everything opens, releases. And then allow your awareness to sink deeper than those superficial sinew channels into the bones, especially the bones, the neck and the shoulders, the arms. You take your time, nourishing these spaces with your attention, becoming more and more aware of the deep structures of your body. Allow the warmth of the hands to soak in. Remember that you want to only touch your body with warm hands, also keeping your feet warm, your lower back and belly warm. Especially in these areas, if you've been developing tension, a kind of stiffness that seems unrelated to an injury, perhaps. Might even get worse when it's cold outside, or if you haven't moved around much. You might very much benefit from visiting a doctor of Chinese medicine who can do some treatment locally on the channel to help it warm up. I highly recommend, as I often do, to spend some time making sure that it stays warm. And if you take a warm bath and wrap up in a warm blanket and you notice that that stiffness and pain starts to go away, then definitely begin to include heat as part of your healing process. Staying warm can make such a difference for so many people. It's kind of silly. Since we're working with the kidney channel today, you might want to spend extra time on the ears, which is related to the kidneys. Warming at the base of the spine. Remember, this is where this kidney sinew channel extends up through. So spend extra time here, especially if you've been in the wind or the cold, or you're dealing with a stiff neck, which of course so many of us are. I'll try not to hit my microphone here. Soften the front of your chest. Release all the way around your shoulders and your arms. Spend a moment just here at the top of the pubic bone, just above it, below your navel. And of course your lower back, especially when we're talking about helping the kidneys. All the way down to the tip of your tailbone. Remember that the self-massage series has a deep exploration of all of these movements. If you're not sure where to find them on YouTube, you can also always find them on my Patreon. And remember that I have hundreds of classes over there, possibly thousands by the time you've watched this. Releasing down your legs, softening down to your feet. Let's spend some extra time softening along this line here, along the inside of the legs. So softening down the outside and back, emphasizing from the bottom of your feet all the way up. Equally in that self-massage series, there's a wonderful series of practices for the feet that I highly recommend people taking up. spinning a little bit longer in these shaking and vibrating practices, as long as they're getting easier for you. Hopefully, each time you practice, you're able to do it more effortlessly, with greater ease, without adding tension to these areas. Soft and open all the way through. Ah. Thank you for joining me. So fun. Your whole body. Thank you very much. You're doing a great job. Keep it up. I'll see you here tomorrow.